Right, gang, we've got the biggest testing ever. We've got 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20. Now, I'd actually stopped testing and I was going to make a video. And I even wrote notes to make a video because I do professional videos. I have it, I don't just blabber on. I have it all the points that I want you to learn. You know, I want to make a professional tutorial, and this is all me testing that I've done. Half of it since then. What I found is I was writing down like a summary of the characteristics, and I noticed it's not just about testing the pellets to what breaks down on the feeder well. Yeah, it's what actually the 2 hours later when you're on the bank, some of the mixers go off, so they go a bit squashy, you know. So when they go into the feeder, they're mushy. Well, there's 2 problems with that. One is they won't offload, so you won't set your trap, you won't have a plate. But the other thing with that is when you reel your feeder back in, yeah, it's all gooey inside. So you've got to constantly clean out. So you know, you're just not catching. You need the pellets. That's the main thing, the number one thing. The pellets must offload. You should bring your feeder back empty every time. Right. Couldn't put a finger on it because when I started off I got a bit carried away and I was doing mixes of 3 and 4 and things like that. Anyway, what happened was I couldn't pinpoint it, so this is why I'm making a video now. I've actually found what pellet was causing the problems, and as I say, this is the main thing what I want you to do. If you are, my main point to get across if you're going to start experimenting is just mix 2 and then mix another 2 and then mix another 2 and then try mix it together. Now there's 2 benefits of that. Is one, if when you mix, that could be a brilliant pellet, you're happy with it, and that could be a brilliant pellet, yeah, and you're happy with it, and you think, oh well, I'll mix them 2 together, it might make it better. Well, it doesn't always, actually. Well, about 60% of the time it doesn't. They kill each other off. It usually makes it worse, right? Usually. That's one thing. The other thing what happens is the characteristics of, say, this, let's just take this for an example. The characteristics of this pellet on its own, when mixed, let's say, with chocolate orange, yeah? That characteristics become different. So you can't think of that as normal, yeah? Same with that, you can't think as normal. You've got to think of them as a new pellet. You've got to think of them as, you know, you've got to, when you mix 2, you've got to think of it as a new pellet. And get to know the characteristics of that. Now the other benefit of just having mixing 2 and mixing 2 is when you write it down, your ratios. For example, I've got fin 2, carp 1, mainline 1, and I started to do notes to make it easier. So that's a mix of 4, yeah. Now if you had another mix where it was the same 3, yeah, so it was fin, carp and mainline, but different proportions. You can then mix them together and you can add them up, so you can make a note. So if another mix, for example, it might have been fin 1, carp 2 and mainline 3, right? You do that, you test them separately. But after them testing, you can then mix them 2 together and write down the ratios, and you've got a new one. So without making a new mix, let's say there's the 2 mixes, yeah? After testing them, if they've got the same, you can then mix them 2 together and you've got a different ratio, and make sure at every test that they're slightly moist. And that's another thing I was doing wrong. I was being over scientific when I was adding water. Now sometimes being over scientific isn't scientific. It's the opposite of being scientific. And what I mean by that was, I used to accurately, that was a portion of 4 orange mark would be me water. Just from testing, that was the exact amount of water. Normally, by accurately measuring the water, I was making some mixers unfair because they needed a little bit more water or a little bit less water, yeah? If you had 10 men working on the chain gang, yeah, and you were the supervisor and your boss said you've got to give them a pint of water every day and expect the same amount of work from each one, it wouldn't be fair, would it? Because some men would need more water than others depending on the build and it's that kind of thing. So what I do now is and I've only just started doing this, so a lot of my tests were actually unfair. I put a little bit less water in, and then I'd get a little drizzle on my tap. The tiniest little dribble you can get. And I mean the tiniest little dribble you can get, like that. And then just slowly keep, imagine this is me mix. I'm mixing it here. It's a little bit dry, just a little bit of water. Mix a little bit of water. So you get it, every one then gets to be moist. It's fair then. It doesn't matter how much water they get, they've got to be all slightly moist. They're all identical. Anyway, I found the culprit. I can't tell you everything that I've learned, because if I told you everything that I've learned from like a month or two of testing, it'd need a video 5 hours long. I'm going to test these now while it's just right. They've been sat here for 2 hours, they're all mixed up, they're all the same weight. Always use the same feeder, always use the same water temperature, always have still water, always drop it in, down and take my hand out so there's no swirl. Always make sure there's no pellets, because that makes it unfair, because then there's no, you know, you're restricting water in, that makes it unfair for the next mix. Always have the same stemming. This has got little ridges on it. If you use a guru that hasn't got them little gouges, then it's a bit more slippery, that makes it a bit unfair. So that stays in the kitchen, I don't move that. So that's the fair way to do it. You must always allow 2 hours minimum after soaking. Remember, pellets go through stages, so you have to have at least, I would say, 2 hours. If you start testing before 2 hours, you could hit one of them, settle down. Nothing happens after 2 hours. Testing pellets allow the same time after soaking. I was explaining you can do a mix if you've got the same mixes, different proportion. You can do the same thing if you've got a simple 2-part mix and another simple 2-part mix. Say that's them there. You could, after all your testing, add them together, which would give you a 4-part mix, and then you get a free mix. So that would then becomes a 4-part mix. Carp 1, F1 1, Krill half, Pro 1. That's Sonia Bates Pro. You can get a free mix. Saves soaking, it saves messing, it saves washing, and it's a free mix. But remember, once you get into 4, if you have a problem, it's hard to locate which one it is. So start getting to know pellets in just pairs, which is where I went wrong. I got a bit carried away, but that's my personality. But anyway, you're all learning from my mistake. On the bank, there's a few things to watch out. Do the mixers bring fish? Do any of the mixers slow down the action? So you getting bites, you're catching fish, and then you change your pellet deliberately. Do you keep getting bites and keep catching fish, or does it stop? Do any mixers attract small fish, or vice versa? Do any mixers attract big fish? Do any mixers encourage aggressive bites? I found that with the F1. Man, there were F1s. Does the mixture still compress into the feeder? After 2.5 hours of fishing, is any of the pellets coming off on cast, i.e. the splash on the water? Always watch for that. Yeah, when you're catching, it's a good idea. If you are like I am going to now, I'm going to start with my best mixers. I'm going to take 3 or 4 of my best mixers. I'm going to cast 1 mix to me left and 1 mix to me right, out. I might even do 1 mix in me left margin, 1 mix in me right margin. So I've got 4 mixers. And know which one catches, because it's not all about this palaver, it's about what catches fish. Make notes, because you think you remember things, you know. Feeder size, feeder type. Was that pellet mix working well? Was it shallow water or deep water? These are the sort of things that you forget if you don't make notes. You know, you say, oh, I remember. You don't always remember, yeah? You don't always remember. There's a lot to remember, you know, the pellet. You just make a few notes. All the top anglers, I would be surprised if any of the top anglers didn't make notes, because that's what makes them so good. They have that mindset to make sure they remember and learn, you know. Freezing. Don't. I forgot about this. It doesn't work. Don't bond together after freezing. It makes them very singular. And somehow they just feel different. And I've noticed that don't get so many bites. So freezing, avoid. So yeah, I'll do 1 more video and it'll just be which catches. Yeah. Might show you the slow mix on a deep lake or a river, and the fast mix on an island where it's very shallow, you know. But that's it. Then I'm done. I'm just going to concentrate on my fishing to make the testing actually easier. Now that's for making a 2 litre. When I know a good mix, that's what I use, and that's from it's a shampoo bottle. And how you do that is you very, very accurately measure out 400 ml and put water in, and then put a black marker on and mark it, and then you can cut it to exactly 400 millilitres. Yeah, so it's 400 millilitres. Then put 200 millilitres in and pour it in, and then mark it. Now, the reason you use water than marking it, there's a dome on the bottom. Yeah, so before some bright spark says, why didn't you just measure it? Well, it's different. Look, it's not exactly half and half. It's a bit more this way because of that dome. Yeah, and then you could half that. You don't have to do 100 mils, just half that distance, and then half that distance. But even that one, I think, is half a millimetre to the left. But anyway, that one is exactly half. Now that's to make a 2 litre. Well, actually, that's 2 litres. It comes to about there. Then when it's soaked up, it comes to about there. But for me testing, I used to use this. This is off a bacteria gel. Now, it was originally 100 millilitres, so I guess this was about 70. I was using this for testing, but I was using quite a lot of pellets because it adds up. So basically, I went smaller. And what I did was, I went to, this is off the top of a sun lotion thing, right? Now, I found this saves you a lot of pellets, and it's a lot quicker. Because all I do, let's say it's Carp 1, F12, Caramel 1. I just dip that into the bag 3 times for the Carp, 2 times for the F1 and whatever it is. So it's just quicker. You don't have to start pouring it in and measuring it and then holding it up to the light to see the black, you know, and you don't have to do all that. Just use something that's the right height. It's dead quick. Just scoop it in, it fills up, and it basically, you can just give it a knock or a shake. That's it. It's so quick. 2 of them, 1 of them, 3 of them. Yeah, or half. Half, no problem, because you can sort of see a half because it's so small. Half's no problem. For the water, you get to know the water. Yeah, you'll always have about, see, they're all about the same amount. Yeah, most of them. You'll get to know how much water and just put in a tiny bit less. And then, as I say, the way to do it is a tiniest drizzle, and just keep adding it till you get it. You know, don't do what I did and start measuring water out. That's the wrong way to go. Yeah, because every pellet needs a different amount of water, and it'd be very, very unfair. You couldn't be more unfair if you were to give every mix the same amount of water. But that's the quick and easy way to do it. Now, the last thing, I've got a good known mix, and I want to make a 2 litre Tupperware box to go to the bank. I use that. I don't do 4 of them. Obviously, I'd end up with far too much. But what I use this, it's in increments of 4. Now, most of the mixes are in 4 or 6. Or even if it's 5, you just add on, so you can use that. So basically, every one of them is 1. So let's say it was 2 of them, 1 of them, 1 of them, and 3 of them. Yeah, 2 of them, fill it up to there in your Tupperware box. 1 of them, fill it up to there in your box. What did I say? 3 of them, up to the 3 mark. Anything, then the last one was it. Let's say 4 of them, right to the top. Put it in. Before you add water, always put the lid on and give them a good stir. Yeah. Now, ideally, the last thing for soaking is you want to make it as flat as possible. Ideally, about 8 to 9 mil. So you don't have to soak them in the box that you're going to put them in. You can use I threw it away, but I had a turkey tray, an aluminium foil turkey tray, so it was huge. Yeah, so the mix that I was going to use for the fishing, I wouldn't soak them in me Tupperware box. I'd soak them in this turkey. It was only £1.50 from B&M's or somewhere, yeah, in a turkey tray. Then you can spread them out and you'll get them to 8 or 9 mil. The problem if you do it in a Tupperware box is you've got to keep turning it over, you know, Otherwise the bottom pellets will soak too wet and the top pellets will soak too dry. If you can get them so they're about 8 or 9 mil high, just tap them all down and they'll all soak evenly. They'll all, you know, they're not too thick that the top ones won't soak differently. They'll all soak the same. And the moisture content, you don't want to do what you do with ground bait and over wet it with the thinking it'll dry out a bit. Yeah, it's pellets, it's more critical with pellets. If you over wet them, they can lose the quality, so you can't bring them back, yeah. So getting the right amount of water is crucial, and that's why I do it now with just a tiny drizzle. Now regards the amount of water, I know there's lots and lots of videos on there where they say just put water in till the pellets are just sticking out. I think that's too much water. I don't agree with just dipping them in water for 2 minutes. And then take them out. That's not enough water. They need to be soaked and left for 2 hours. Right, I've tried all this. This is what I did the first week. Before I even done a lot of mixing, I done loads of experiment with water and soaking. Believe me, they need to soak. And basically, you can put water in so that you just see a little bit of water on a little bit excess water on the bottom of your Tupperware box. So when you're moving them about like that, if you've got the right amount of water, you'll just see a little bit of what, you know, when you do that, you'll just see a little bit of water coming onto the Tupperware box. That's when it's just right. The other way to do it is, they should feel, you've just put the water, I don't mean after an hour or two, I mean immediately. After you put the water in and you've mixed it all around, they should feel wet without too wet, if that makes any sense. Yeah, but yeah, you've got to move them around and then what I do, as I say, the best to get them about 8 or 9 mil. Let's say they were over there. You don't want to leave them like that because obviously these will get too wet and they'll dry up because they're on their own, so they'll dry out. So they've gone from being maybe too wet to too dry, and these will be too dry because they're on their own too high. So you've got to get them all, it doesn't take a second. Just use the back of your hand, flatten them out so they're all roughly about the same height. You don't have to be pedantic about it and spend ages, just like that. Just a couple of seconds work. Now they will all then soak up perfectly. Anyway, it went on really nice. Now it's no surprise that it's starting slow because carp does that. The carp pellet is good for slow mixers, but look, the good news is it's starting to get energy. Look, it's starting to offload. So this is a perfect mix for if you're fishing a very deep lake, like 7 or 8 foot or more, and your feeder, when it hits the top of the water, the time it takes to get down to the bottom of the water can be 3.5 seconds. That's enough time for the pellets to start coming off with some of the faster mixers. And it will cause you big problems. It will start taking the fish off the bottom, so it's taking them away from where you want them. But the other thing is, you won't be setting a nice trap at the bottom, like a nice plate with a wafter in, because the pellets will have come off. Oh, this has got a brilliant plate, look at that. Now it's a bit ironic because I've used this mix so many times, but not in these proportions. And that's goes to point out what I was telling you at the beginning of the video about just working with 2 mixers and then another 2 mixers, and then you're working with different proportions to get to know, because it's just a quarter difference. In other words, I don't want to take my camera off because has it stopped? Like carp a half to carp, to carp a half to method a half is totally different. And if you add carp a quarter to 3/4, that's hugely different. Or even if, you know, a quarter, it changes a lot, yeah? That's the point I'm making. The mixing pellets is mind-blowing. It doesn't have, they don't have change, honestly. It's like, it's just crazy. Anyway, there's a 20, look, I've got. That's what we're after, gang, a big plate like that. Yeah? That's what we're after. Making a plate of food. So when a fish comes along, it doesn't see your feeder. It just sees a plate of food. Now, it's got lucky because there is plates of food where somebody's thrown stuff in, or somebody's had a PVA bag or whatever, you know. Pole fed a ball in, whatever. They do come across balls of pellets, and that's the thing. Oh, great. And then you end up catching one. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to hide the feeder. There's a 20 gang, and it was a slow one. It was a slow mix as well. Same on a river. You do not want a fast mix on a river, because by the time your feeder hits the bottom, remember, because of the flow of water, it takes longer for a feeder to hit the bottom on a river. Yeah, it goes down slow. It's got the resistance of the feeder and the water to contend with. And then, so there's that problem, but also you want to draw fish in. You want a few pellets staying on your feed. You don't want them all coming off within a second of hitting the bottom, because you'll take the fish down to the next peg. Yeah, the fish will be 2 or 3 pegs down. You know, so you need a slow release mix for rivers, and that is one. Fantastic. I was telling you I started off with mixes of 4 because I was trying to be too specific. The reason I wanted 4 was so I could add the exact amount of water. Well, now that I've realised that's a long way to go, I'm not always concentrating on making a mix equal to 4 or 8, you know, because you can do 2 of these. Some of my mixes was a quantity of 8, you know, where I added like 4. You can add 4 things, and obviously then you just make sure that they all add up to 8. So you fill that up to there twice. Anyway, that's not the way to go. So now it doesn't matter if it adds up to 6 or 5, you know, you just put the water in gradually till it's... Method 3, fin 2, carp 1. And if you noticed, all these mixes, this is the first time I've used fin. And the reason being, I was a big fan of fin. It's a fast pellet. But through all the testing, it took me a while, because I was saying I'd done too many complicated mixes, and I couldn't pinpoint which one was making me pellets go mushy after about 2 hours. Anyway, it's the fin. And that's why I thought I wasn't going to do any testing with fin anymore. But when I really thought about it, it doesn't bother me. I can mix pellets and soak them, no problem, while I'm actually watching my rods. So it's not a problem. So I thought, if fin is really good, I don't mind if it goes off after 2.5 hours, because I'll just, through the day, do it 2 or 3 times, you know. So then I thought, okay, I'll give it a last chance. So this is, if you like, its last chance saloon. And that's what it will like. Went on there lovely. Don't make a swirl with your hands. Lift your hand out directly upwards and very slow. Oh, lovely. Fast one. You need both, gang. You need fast mixers and you need slow mixers, and even a medium mix, you know. Every lake's a different depth. You've got your canals with with boat traffic. You've got your river fishing. So you've got your summer fishing, you've got your winter fishing. There's all things to consider. You need different speeds that it offloads. Yeah, there isn't one mix for all. You need. This is really good. Interrupting myself, but yeah, that were a nice, fast and steady mix as it stopped. Yeah, so there's a good mix for when you're shallow fishing. You're catching the fish are there. You just want to hit bottom, offload, fish. Yeah, good one that. Happy with that. Looks nice as well, doesn't it? Lovely. I'm gonna mix that one. So we'll give that one. We'll give that 19.5. Eh? We'll give that 19.5. And that was the fin 2.5. See, I'm back to fin now. As I say, it's such a good pellet. Yes, it goes mushy after a few hours, but I can just make a new batch, you know. You don't make it the night before and put it in the fridge. That's a no-no. With the fin, you must make it on the morning. Yeah? Or when you even get to the bank. So, you can have you can have another box mixed up, couldn't you, in a spare Tupperware? But if you had another Tupperware box, you can have it mixed up, so you just have to add the water. You know, it would take you what? Seconds. That's all it would take you. You know, it's more important to have a good offload than how long it takes. I mean, soft as you can see on this edge, look, but some of a lot of the some of the mixers that they feel as if they're not going to be good off. Well, here's a point in case in point. You think they're not going to be good, but they are, because they're a bit squidgy, a bit glutinous, a bit gooey, just a tiny bit. I'm not saying it wasn't like the last one, you know, that disaster, the last one with the carp mix. This is looking really good, actually. Nice big plate there in no time. I'm liking that. I'm liking that. And it's still going, look. It's great to, when you get it's interesting. As I say, the properties all change with different, not just different pellets, but different percentages. Just as I say, just changing the percentage slightly can make a massive difference. It's crazy. But and you get some really nice mixes. I've just found there. It's a very, it's not a flat plate. It's a high plate. I don't know if I can put the phone right down without getting it wet. It's a deep plate, if you know what I mean. It's not a shallow plate like that over there, because I've been messing about in the water. I'm going to show it that way. That is, I would say, a 20, because there's a lot of pellets offloaded off there, and it's high in the middle. Your wafter would most certainly push some even more out, or any toe in the water, or so. I mean, that is cracking, in it. We'll give that a 20. All on the same feeder, the Matrix. I've been looking at the Matrix and the Advanta feeder together. Basically, the Advanta's. Oh, look at this! Wow. It's even better. It's even better. I thought it would be slightly less vibrant, but if anything, it's slightly more vibrant. Again, it just tells you what you think will happen isn't quite always what will happen. In fact, usually it's quite often to the contrary. Now there's a big pile there, look, see how tall it is. Now any tiny movement would offload a lot of that. There's always movement in a pond or a lake. It just shows you all three of them on their own aren't that explosive. But when you put them together, it's like a miracle. Relatively nice easy mix. Put it gently in, take your hand directly up so you don't create a stir. This is looking good, gang. Keep going, keep going. If it keeps going, this is going to be a very good one. Because I like it. The reason I like it, there was a few seconds delay before it started to get going, and that's what you want. You don't want, as soon as it hits water, to explode off, because if you're in 3.5, 4 foot of water, it takes a second or two to get down. They're going to be coming up before it's hit bottom. You're going to be lifting the fish off the bottom. You're not going to have a plate on the bottom, because half of it will be off before it got to the bottom. Oh, that's what you want, really, about between 5 or 7 seconds delay before anything happens. So when it's in water, nothing happens for 5 or 7 seconds. But do it the night before, don't do it on the afternoon. Wait till, an hour or so before you go to bed. The only exception to that is if you're using fin. If you've got fin in your mix, you must do it on the morning or when you're at the bank, because it only has a life of about 2 hours. It goes too fairy and mushy, and you'll have that problem. It'll all stay in your feeder and it won't offload. The properties start to It's not just that it goes gooey, it just stops offloading. So I hope you enjoyed the video, gang. Watch my other videos about feeding and feeders and fishing. And
I've caught an even bigger one, gang. About the same size. And I've got another one on this rod. Oh man, they just keep getting bigger and bigger. How many is this now? It's 4 I've had of these. I've only been here half an hour. So it's working, gang. Eh? How's about that? I really have up the whale in the middle of the lake now. I've got him, gang. He's a whopper. Look at that.